After 2 years worth of backlash towards Disney over Rachel Zegler's Snow White, this admittedly bastardized version, which we heard stories start to go viral about what they wanted to do, how they wanted to modernize it, how it was so outdated, and how Rachel Zegler disrespected the original. And a classic from Walt Disney, something that completely saved Disney and changed the company and changed animation in general. Rachel Zegler had a lot of bad things to say about the original, and that didn't go over well with people. Turns out her politics didn't go over very well with people. Her attitude didn't go over very well with people. And now as Disney desperately tried to do a PR spin job in the final months to make it look like Rachel Zegler is actually likable, it ultimately was a complete failure. And we heard reports that, Disney just wanted to get it over with when it came to Snow White, but the media was not done shilling. The media said, no, we can save this movie. We can do everything in our power. We want to keep our access, Disney. We want to keep getting invited to these premieres. Please, let us try to shill. And shill they did. Some of them came out after they went to the Hollywood premiere, after they got wined and dined by Disney and got to meet celebrities and all those things, and said, this movie's just so incredible. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Well, a lot of the critics that didn't get invited to that had their opinions, and it wasn't very good. Not only did Snow White get destroyed by the critics, but now it's also gotten completely annihilated by the audience. But the question was, with the media shilling, with Disney and their PR spin job, would it make a difference? Could they stop this movie from being a massive box office bomb? We now know the answer to that. The answer is no. Absolutely not. In fact, Snow White at the box office opening weekend did worse than anyone had projected, worse than the falling projections that they had before when they told us, hey guys, it's going to do $100 million globally, which would have been nightmarish, which would have led them to probably losing $250 million when this movie was all said and done. Now, that number might be even higher because Snow White Bombs breaks record for lowest live-action remake opening. And yes, for as long as Disney's been trying to do these bastardized live actions, this is the worst opening weekend we've ever seen. $43 million domestically. And even worse for them, the international numbers came in way under projection. So if people thought this is just a culture war issue that was inherently an American thing, and because she said these things about Trump, blah, blah, blah. No, it's all over the world. People have rejected this movie and rejected Rachel Zegler. $87 million. Before, I think the worst global release that we saw was Dumbo with $116 million. This is significantly less than that. That movie went on to make around $350 million. Look, I thought that there'd be more walk-up business. I certainly thought it was going to bomb. I certainly thought it was going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney. But even I wasn't expecting it to be this bad, but here we are. And look, audiences have spoken. 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Look at Metacritic, 1.2. Overwhelming dislike. IMDb, 2.2 out of 10. Not much better. And look, are some of these reviews from people who didn't watch the movie? Probably that's the case. You know what? There's reviews on there from people that didn't watch the movie that gave it a 10 out of 10. There's people that gave it a 1 out of 10. That's how it works, right? That's how it's always worked. But people all over, anywhere you look right now, you search Rachel Zegler, unless it's a spin, shill media type of propaganda piece or whatever, it's negative. Because everyone is bringing up everything that Rachel Zegler has said and done that has fucked this movie up over the last 2 years. Of course, starting with this on the red carpet, my man Drew Hernandez just like to remind Disney as to why their Snow White movie is failing. And this moment was a big point. It's not just what Rachel Zegler said, it's how she said it, it's how she spoke about the original. And of course, just her attitude in general came off as very unlikable and snotty, and it turned people off. It turned off original Disney fans. It turned off people that have no political lean one way or the other. A lot of people were pissed off by this.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
It is Hollywood, baby, and Rachel Zegler, you are finding that out the hard way. Of course, and some of these, I will say, there are some of these things that are being misconstrued by people who want monetization on Twitter to make it look like Rachel's just saying this now. No, this is a history of these things that she has said, regardless of whether it was about Snow White or not. But, you know, people reminding everyone that Rachel Zegler specifically said she doesn't want Trump supporters at her movies. And that if you are a Trump supporter, she basically wishes you a hellish life and that you never know peace. And this happened just months before the release of Snow White, by the way. You have people reminding people of this clip right here. Disney Snow White star Rachel Zegler bragging that people will still line up to see her films despite her woke views.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Now, I do also, I mean, this is, you know, completely insufferable, obviously so. But I do want to point this out. Again, people that are just trying to get clicks on Twitter and don't care if they're right or wrong. Disney Snow White has a lot of talent. How do you make an apology video this insufferable? This is not an apology video. This had nothing to do with Snow White. In fact, this was years before. But it's an example of Rachel Zegler and her ego, right? Which is why people are gravitating towards this. This was during the strike. Rachel Zegler, very entitled, and people didn't necessarily love this attitude for their new Snow White. This is from Chrissy Mayer. Rachel Zegler's base pay for Snow White was $1 million. It's rumored to have now approached $3 million. Don't feel bad for any of the criticisms of her. She hates you all.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
I deserve, the union deserves better. We deserve better. I deserve to get paid for every hour that it's streamed online. Well, you know what, Rachel? I do think that you should be compensated fairly, right? So if you made $1 to $3 million for Snow White, you know, I really do think that this should all be based off how much the movie makes, you know, streaming, box office, all this stuff. So I think, Rachel, that you probably owe Disney about $200 to $300 million, because that's how much this movie is going to lose when it's all said and done. We're talking about a movie that they had spent $270 million just by the end of 2023. So this movie easily is over $300 million on its total budget, following the reshoots and including the tax breaks from the UK. Over $300 million. $100 million in marketing. This movie is now, you know, tracking. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of days in the second weekend. But for a movie that people thought might end up in the $400 to $450 million range, now 300s looking a lot more likely. So yeah, Rachel, I think you should be paying back. I think you should be paying back the people that fucking actually gave this thing a chance, because your movie is dog shit and everyone hates Rachel Zegler. That is the reason that this is failing. And the fact that it's a terrible fucking movie doesn't help. But if it was just the movie that it is, a bad movie, and Rachel Zegler hadn't said any of this shit, this controversy hadn't blown up, I can guarantee you we'd be talking a lot more than $87 million globally in its opening weekend. Snow White is a complete and total catastrophe, a failure, and a bigger bomb than even some of the people more skeptical than anyone else, even a bigger bomb than anyone could have thought possible.